and welcome to this edition of the CCN podcast. I'm your host, Paul Medor. As a note, for the time being, we will only be doing episodes on Friday. So if you were disappointed when we didn't release an episode this past Wednesday, I do apologize. This episode is fairly long and contains two interviews I conducted over the past week. One with the infamous Erik Voorhees, who was in the rise and rise of Bitcoin, used to run a gambling site called Satoshi Dice, co-founded Coinapult, and now runs Shapeshift.io, which is what we talked about, the struggles of getting the Shapeshift mobile application into the Apple Store. Voorhees actually made headlines twice this week, the second time by telling the New York Post that the bit license in New York is not unlike North Korean communist tyranny in its spying provisions. On that note, the New York Department of Financial Services told the New York Post in the same article that they had already licensed one digital currency company. Later in the day yesterday, the community received confirmation directly from the Winklevoss twins that it was not them who had been licensed, as they stated they believed they were perhaps a couple of weeks away from receiving such licensure. Moving on, I've got an extended interview with John Light, the Let's Talk Bitcoin host cum entrepreneur who is presently working on a project called Bitseed, which is an easy way for laymen to run a full node from their home network. Please enjoy. Honored to have Erik Voorhees from Shapeshift.io of Satoshi Dice fame. He was in the Bitcoin movie. So Erik, we're on the phone today to talk about your new iOS app for Shapeshift. Tell us about it. How does it work?
Well, the iOS app will be basically exactly like the website. So it has all the same functionality, and essentially it lets someone convert between different digital currencies nearly instantly with no account or sign up or any nonsense like that. So basically if someone has, Dogecoin or Dash or Ripple and they want to buy Bitcoin with it or vice versa, this is the fastest and easiest way to do it. Probably the safest because we don't have to hold on to customer money.
In terms of actually using it, like if you have a Bitcoin wallet on your phone and the Shapeshift app on your phone, are they able to work interchangeably or?
Yeah, so like for example, if you have Bread Wallet, which is a pretty popular Bitcoin wallet for iPhone, and you do a conversion in the Shapeshift app, when the time is right, they'll open your Bread Wallet for you, and then you can approve the transaction. So like if you're doing Bitcoin to Litecoin, it would open up your Bread Wallet. You just click approve, and then it would send Bitcoin into Shapeshift. Shapeshift converts it into Litecoin, and then it would go into your Litecoin wallet wherever you told it to be.
Okay, so like you'd have to have your altcoin addresses as well. So I guess what's like the biggest use case for the mobile app?
Well, it was probably the most requested feature that we've had when we ask our customers kind of what do they want from us. So the people that are already using Shapeshift, I think a lot of times Bitcoin is done on mobile devices, whether people transferring between each other or whatever. And so having to kind of break that natural flow on a mobile device and go to a website is not as ideal as just being able to smoothly do it all in an app. So probably the use case will be our normal customers, doing whatever they're doing. It lets people do cool things like, let's say you're at a bar with your friends and your friend has some Dogecoin and you don't want any Dogecoin because you don't think the joke's funny, but you want some Bitcoin and he owes you for beer, so he can pay Dogecoin to a Dogecoin address in Shapeshift on your phone. The Dogecoin will be sent and then converted and then turned into Bitcoin and sent into your phone as Bitcoin. So things like that just make it really convenient for anyone who has a certain digital asset and wants something else. The idea is that all these digital assets should be immediately convertible into each other.
People that already accept Bitcoin to easily accept a variety of coins.
Yeah, that's one way to use it.
What was the process like of getting it into the Apple Store? Was that difficult?
We were expecting quite a fight, actually. We thought Apple would have a million reasons why they weren't going to approve it. There haven't been any other apps, to my knowledge, for iPhone that let you actually exchange different cryptocurrencies between each other. and Apple has had sort of it used to be a very cold stance toward Bitcoin apps that they've warmed up more recently. So we really didn't know, but it went through very smoothly. We didn't have any problems. They didn't ask us to change anything or have any complaints. So, maybe the ghost of Steve Jobs was smiling favorably on us or something. It definitely doesn't violate any of their policies explicitly. The problem with Apple is that they don't. They have a lot of latitude in how they sort of interpret their policies, and in their policies, basically, they're allowed to deny an app for any reason, even if it's not in the policy, and even if another app is already doing it. So it can be very frustrating, but fortunately they were cool and we're good to go. Yeah, and that was, I think, one reason that helped us is that since we don't touch fiat or what Apple considers real money, it's just crypto to crypto. So Apple doesn't really they don't understand what that is. They don't understand that is real money.
Awesome.
It's not a problem.
Congratulations on that. I guess it is kind of a feat when you think about it. I mean, the only apps I've heard relating to Bitcoin really have been those that let you earn it for free or whatever, like those games. I'm not an Apple user, but I know that the Android marketplace is a lot friendlier to Bitcoin applications.
Yeah, Android, Google doesn't have to approve your apps. Basically, you can get any app into the Android store, I think, as long as it doesn't have viruses or something like that. But Apple actually goes through and makes a decision on whether you're anointed into their store or not.
Have a great day. This episode is brought to you by CoinCompetition.com, the most fun you can have while potentially winning around over $200 while risking nothing but the time you invest in learning to trade Bitcoin. It is a partnership between us and Bitcoin trading platform CoinArch.com. Definitely check that out if you're looking to get your first Bitcoin or just want to put your trading skills to the test in a risk-free environment. The terms are simple. Whoever makes the most profit wins a full Bitcoin, and the competition runs once a week. You may recall, if you were listening last week, that we played the song Get the Hell Out by the band 22 Hertz from Toronto, Canada, which was imprinted on the blockchain. The hash of it was, in any case. Well, now they've been kind enough to give us a few more songs to play over the course of the next few episodes. So here is the song Give Me a Sign. Please enjoy. Give Me a Sign by 22 Hertz. Check them out at 22hertz.com, link in the show notes. And now for my interview with John Light, the co-founder of Bitseed. On the line here with John Light, the co-founder of Bitseed, a dedicated Bitcoin node. It's a hardware product that users can buy to offload the computations of the blockchain onto the device instead of their desktop. So John, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks for having me on.
John also is the host of P2P Connects Us, a podcast on the Let's Talk Bitcoin network, so you may recognize his voice. So how did this Bitseed project come about? You started it in March, I guess?
Yeah, so the product has actually been in the works since sometime last year, and there was a number of prototype versions that were gone through, a couple different case designs, some work on the software, of course, and it really all started coming together along with a website that we put up so that people could buy the product. Towards the end of March, I basically just scheduled a tweet to go out with a picture of the product and a link to the website where people could buy it, and the tweet went kind of semi-viral a little bit. It got like 20 or 30 retweets and ended up on the front page of the Bitcoin subreddit. And so we started getting a huge influx of orders and a lot of great feedback from the community. And we figured, this is something that's really striking a chord in a certain segment of the community. And this is something that we could sell as a kind of dedicated product, that somebody can have a dedicated piece of hardware in their home or office where people can host their own copy of the blockchain.
So can you explain to us, without getting overly technical, like what does this do for the owner of a Bitseed? So
right now it does primarily two things. It will download a full copy of the blockchain so that you have a full authoritative copy of the blockchain that you can use for accessing any of the data that's happened, like any of the transaction data for any of the transactions that have happened on the Bitcoin network since the beginning of the Bitcoin network. This can be good for developers or researchers or anybody who's just interested in getting information about a particular Bitcoin address, whether it's their Bitcoin address or someone else's Bitcoin address. And then second, as a full node, as long as you have port 8333 open on your router, and there are instructions for doing this online depending on what kind of router you have, or if your router has universal plug and play capabilities, then it will actually automatically open this port when you plug in the Bitseed into your router. But basically, as long as you have that port open, your Bitseed node will actually connect with the network, connect with other nodes on the network, and help to relay transactions and blocks between nodes and miners on the network. So you're actually directly supporting the relaying of transactions from other Bitcoin users, helping them get from point A to point B and helping the network to function. So it
decentralizing it, right?
Right. You're contributing to the further decentralization of the Bitcoin network by adding one more node to the network that isn't controlled by somebody else. So a lot of people talk about how, if Bitcoin nodes become really hard to run, then it'll just be a few big Bitcoin nodes that everybody has to trust. And then you end up with basically a mildly distributed or decentralized kind of version of PayPal. And I mean, that's, what good is that? Are we really going to spend $500 million or $1 billion a year to support the same thing that we have today? So just running your own node helps to ensure that control of the blockchain, control of Bitcoin transaction relaying remains decentralized. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is the fact that, and we've put instructions for doing this on our website, but you can actually register your full node with a service called BitNodes,
right,
which basically offers a lottery or a bounty kind of system where they randomly pick a node that has meets a certain kind of quality criteria in terms of uptime and how often it's available, and basically just airdrops $10 onto random nodes every week. So that's kind of something that's out there if people really want a chance at like some sort of direct monetary compensation for running a full node. But for the most part, it's altruistic or just mild self-interest for people who are running these things.
There's also been another hot issue. I mean, and I kind of am baffled at how it's gone from being discussion between developers and turned into almost a philosophical war within the Bitcoin community. But there's the issue of the increase in the block size. So how would that affect the user of a Bitseed?
Because that's kind of been something that's flared up recently. And Gavin Andreessen has been doing a lot of blogging about it on his blog. Matt Corallo started a really interesting discussion on the Bitcoin devs mailing list about this. And, Mike Hearn has his own opinions, and a bunch of the developers obviously have different opinions about this. And it really comes down to, I don't think it's a debate necessarily about to increase the block size or not. Certainly within a segment of the community, that is the debate. But I think that the debate that's really being had between the core developers right now is how do we increase the block size? Is it the way that Gavin Andreessen and Mike Hearn are proposing to do it? Or is it some other more incremental, gradual kind of way of increasing it, along with bandwidth increases and hard drive capacity increases and things like that? As it relates to Bitseed's product, we have a pretty big hard drive on the versions of Bitseed that we sell through our website today. So the basic version comes with a 160 gigabyte hard drive, and we offer a paid upgrade to a 250 gigabyte hard drive. Right now, the blockchain is about 37 or 38 gigabytes in size, and we keep a second copy of the blockchain on the device in case the main copy gets corrupted. The device owner doesn't have to wait a week or two for a whole other copy of the blockchain to download. They can just swap in the backup that we have already synchronized on the device. And so right now, the blockchain takes up a total of about 75 gigabytes, or a little less than half of the current capacity of the hard drive that's on the basic version of the device, that 160 gigabyte hard drive. And now that's the blockchain going back to the very beginning of Bitcoin's history. So that's about 6 years worth of blockchain growth that fits into two copies of that, which fits onto less than half of the current hard drive space for the basic version. Now, if Gavin Andreessen's proposal goes through and we end up with a 20 megabyte block size, that is 20 times larger than the current block size, at least block size limit, I should say. And if, some use cases were developed where the blocks actually start to fill up at 20 megabytes in size, then we're assuming, 20x blockchain growth. So,
so is it expandable? I mean, can someone plug in an external 2 terabyte drive to it? And
there are a couple.
Let's talk about what's under the hood. So you're saying, as it stands, right, you'd be okay for a while.
We'd be okay for
even if you had 20 meg blocks pushing through, you'd be okay for a little while.
Yeah, for at least a couple years. And in terms of an electronics device, I think a shelf life of a couple years is pretty standard, pretty good. At the same time, if somebody wants to, have the device working and kind of up to date longer than that, certainly the board is going to last longer than a couple of years. It's just, whether the hard drive will fill up. So they can either swap out the hard drive that we include, which is, as I said, 160 or 250 gigabytes, for a larger hard drive, and just connect it using the standard SATA connections that are on the board, or they could plug in through one of the USB jacks on the board, an external hard drive, which, they sell, 2, 3, 4 terabyte size external hard drives, and that will be big enough to support blockchain growth for many years to come.
Not to mention by then they'll be a lot less expensive.
Right, yeah, and that's another thing as well, is bandwidth capacity is going to increase, costs are going to come down, and hard drive capacities are going to increase, and the price is going to come down. I think various laws of computing and bandwidth and memory and all of these trends that we've been observing in technology since really the birth of computing, I think they're going to continue to play out in favor of people who run full nodes. And so running a full node is going to continue to be accessible for most people with a modern, high-speed internet connection for years to come.
So let's talk a little about the device itself. I did read some about it, and I noticed it's the version of Ubuntu that was developed for I think Arduino devices. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a similar distribution. It's the Lenaro Ubuntu edition, which is a lightweight version of Ubuntu that's basically specifically designed for these really lightweight, low power ARM boards. Right. The board itself has Arduino headers, so people could actually program various Arduino programs and hook up
maybe
Internet of Things devices or any of these kind of connected Arduino projects that people like to, makers and hackers, people like to play around with on the weekends or whatever.
I'm a big Ubuntu user myself. I have 4 out of 4 machines running it at present. Variations of it, Ubuntu Mate and Xubuntu. So I was pleased to see that you guys picked a really solid distribution. But what went into that decision and the design of the device? And did you personally have a big hand in this part of it?
I didn't. A lot of that work was done before I actually came on board. A lot of it was just guided by the Lenaro Ubuntu edition is what already came basically installed on the board that we're using, which is a PC Arduino 3 Nano board. And so we're kind of basically piggybacking off of a lot of other open source efforts and kind of continuing the tradition of open source by releasing all of the improvements that we've made back into open source and basically encouraging an open source community to kind of form around the device to develop various apps through our assembly community, which we launched about a month and a half ago.
Assembly, right. I heard about them through your podcast. They're the development platform that uses a variation of cryptocurrency to fund the development, correct?
Exactly. And so we started Assembly kind of as a way of extending an open invitation to people who buy our product and use it, and developers who want to develop applications for our product, to help encourage more sales, to get more installs of their app out there, whatever the case may be. It's a place for people to propose bounties, complete bounties, for open source projects. So people just say, hey, I want this bug to be fixed, or I would like to see this new feature added to this app, or even something as complex as I want to develop this app and here are all the things that need to get done. They put a bounty on that, which is denominated in what Assembly calls app coins. And these app coins directly translate into a proportional share of royalties that are paid out by the products that people contribute to. So if somebody has 10,000 app coins in the Bitseed assembly project and 100,000 app coins have actually been issued to people who've been completing bounties, then at the next time there's a royalty share distribution, that person will get 10% of the total royalties, since they own 10% of the coins that have been issued for the project.
Right.
So it's just basically a way of incentivizing and rewarding contributions to our various open source projects. And right now we're focused on Bitcoin, but there are other projects that we're working on as well.
How does the user interface with it from their desktop or from anywhere on their network? Do they just open a shell and SSH to it, or do they is there a graphical interface for it?
So right now there is a graphical user interface, but it's not an administration interface. It's really just an interface to monitor the status of the node. Yeah, so yeah, you can see what the current block height is. You can see, I think if you know the commands, then you can find other information that's in the blockchain through RPC commands, and have it show up on the status monitor. But it's right now the GUI is just very basic. But on the back end, somebody could basically, open a shell, SSH into the device, and then use the command line to get more fine-grained, detailed information from the blockchain about transaction data, unspent outputs, pretty much anything that somebody could use a regular Bitcoin D node for. We have some of the commands and instructions for managing and administrating the node in our documentation, but there's a lot more stuff that's available online, like on the Bitcoin wiki, for all of the things that somebody could do with a Bitcoin D node.
You said you have other projects going. Could you briefly tell us, what else you're working on? Like what's in the pipeline?
Sure. So one of the projects that we've been working on for the past couple of months is a DNS chain edition of the Bitseed box. And DNS chain is basically a software that basically allows you to connect to. Right now it works with Namecoin, NXT, and I believe BitShares. And what it allows you to do is to securely browse the blockchain-specific TLDs for the various blockchains it supports, and also do certificate resolving, essentially, to secure the connections to the website that you're connecting to. So what it'll do is if you have a DNS chain edition of the Bitseed product, then you would plug that into your router, plug it into power, it'll turn on, synchronize with the blockchain, and then you configure your DNS on your computer to use the Bitseed instead of like your home router for DNS. And then what it'll do is when you type in a TLD for, say, the Namecoin blockchain, like okturtles.bit, then what it'll do is your browser will then use your Bitseed to look through the blockchain for okturtles.bit, and then it will resolve the connection to the IP address that whoever runs that domain has configured in the Namecoin blockchain. And then if they've also included like a fingerprint to their certificate, their SSL certificate, then it will go and find that certificate and then end-to-end encrypt your communication, your connection with the server that's behind okturtles.bit. So you will have a man-in-the-middle proof end-to-end encrypted connection between your browser and the okturtles website in a way that's totally censorship resistant and totally immune to any sort of interference from third parties, because it's all secured by the blockchain.
That would really streamline the process for a lot of people. I know there was a browser extension recently for Firefox, but it's very unstable at this point. And I'm looking forward to the day when things like that are, just commonplace. But I think that what you're doing is really important for the censorship-free internet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about all of the possibilities with blockchain-based domain names and certificate resolution. The browser extension was a great project, and it's certainly like necessary to help kind of bridge the gap between what people are like willing to do with like downloading the Namepoint client, getting it synchronized, and like trying to get all of that stuff working on the computer, and then get the browser to talk to their Namepoint client. All this, like the browser extension kind of simplified all of that, but you still need to either trust another copy of the blockchain that some third party is running, and basically wholly trust the data that third party is telling you in terms of like what server you're connecting to when you resolve one of these .bit TLBs, or you need to download a full copy of the blockchain onto your local computer. And I mean, depending on what blockchain you're talking about, that could be more than a few gigabytes worth of space, and it would take a long time. And it depending on how powerful your computer is, it might even crash your computer. So I mean, like it's just not very convenient to do all of that stuff like within your own computer. So by having this dedicated device that you can offload all of that work onto and offload all of those resources, the resource requirements onto, we think that would be much more convenient for people who want to get all of the benefits of the like DNS chain and these blockchain-based domain name systems, while at the same time, having this dedicated device that can provide all of those services for them.
So John, how can I get a Bitseed, and how much do they cost?
So you can go to our website at bitseed.org, and bitseed.org/shop is where you will find both of the products that we have for sale right now. There's the version 1 of Bitseed, which is shipping from in stock, which comes with a 160 gigabyte hard drive and Bitcoin D pre-installed with a full copy of the blockchain. And then we're also accepting pre-orders for Bitseed version 2, which comes with an optional upgrade to a 250 gigabyte hard drive, and also a fully synchronized copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. And you can order either of those products from bitseed.org/shop.
Thank you, John, for your time today. Bitseed is an exciting project. Where can people catch up with you?
Yeah, so people can find me on Twitter, is where I'm most active, twitter.com/Litecoin. That's LIGHTCOIN. And if you want to follow my website, that's lightco.in, lightco.in.
And you also have your podcast, right?
And of course, yes, I do have a podcast called P2P Connects Us. You can listen to all of the past episodes, and stay tuned for future episodes at p2pconnects.us.
Great. Well, have a great day, John, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Thank you so much for tuning into this 8th episode of the CCN podcast. As always, I'm your loyal host, Paul Medor, signing off for Crypto Coins News, your destination for cryptocurrency breaking news. Please do us the favor of subscribing on SoundCloud and liking and sharing this podcast as far as you feel comfortable. We really do appreciate it. Any feedback, contact me at paul.medore, MADORE, at cryptocoinsnews.com. I'm especially interested in featuring more bands on this podcast. So please get in touch if you know of any bands, or if you yourself are a musician, and I'd be happy to share the exposure. Visit us at ccn.la, and more about me at phm.link. Have a great weekend.